Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to check out some new releases that are coming out this Friday, June 6th. It's about 500 albums coming out this week. I got 12 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 500 albums that are coming out this week. I'm going to talk about 12 of them on the show today, so if something you're looking forward to that I'll have on here, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section for them. You can also always go over to the Vinyl Den store on Amazon. All the pre-orders are on there, new releases, there's deals on records, all sorts of cool stuff to check out. The first one I was a little bit on the fence about. I didn't really know if I wanted to pre-order it. I knew I wanted to get a copy of it, but I didn't know if I really needed to pre-order it because there's a bunch of different variants that are going to be available in this one. I ended up finding it on sale for a couple dollars off, so I did end up pre-ordering a copy of it. This is My Chemical Romance, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, released in 2004. It was their second studio album. This is a 2LP. This is the 20th anniversary edition that they're releasing this week, even though 20th anniversary was last year. And like I said, there's a bunch of different versions of this. There's the Amazon exclusive. There's a Target exclusive. I think Urban Outfitters has an exclusive also. There's an indie store version of this. They're all right around $36. This is the band's big breakthrough album when it was first released. I think it hit like number 28 on the Billboard 200. It's all newly remastered for this anniversary edition. This is one of those cornerstone emo post-hardcore albums from the early part of the 2000s. I think it was the strength of this album that really kind of started this catapult to global fame that My Chemical Romance would go on between this album and The Black Parade. And the success of all three of the singles off this album, which were I'm Not Okay, Helena, and The Ghost of You, are really what pushed this album up the charts. And the reason I was kind of on the fence about it is you're not getting a whole lot extra with this deluxe edition. So what's coming on here is you got 4 additional live tracks on here. It's got some additional or alternate artwork. But the big thing for me is having the remixed version of this. I want to see how this compares to the older version I've got. But like I said, that's coming out this week. You also got the new album from Turnstile coming out, Never Enough. It's their 4th studio album. There's a couple of different versions of this. This is a purple Amazon exclusive. And then there's a Periwinkle indie store exclusive, which there's not that much of a color difference between the two versions. It's going to run about $28. This is their follow-up to Glow On, which came out in 2021, which was kind of a breakthrough album for them. I think at number 30 on the Billboard 200. This is the band's first album with Meg Mills replacing Brady Ebert on guitar, which whenever you change a guitarist in a band, it has a tendency to change the sound of the band also. So I'm kind of interested to see how this change affects their sound overall. For the new album, the band brought in Will Yip to help co-produce, which they've worked with him before back on Time and Space, which I think was their second album. So with this new album, they're hoping to expand on the fan base that they've been growing over the last several years. Glow On, they had a lot of success with that one. They ended up going on tour with Blink-182 after its release. So I expect Never Enough to be an even bigger album. They've already released 3 singles off it. Got a really good response from those 3 singles, so it's an album I'm definitely looking forward to checking out this week. There's also a reissue of The Very Best of Grateful Dead coming out this week. It was released back in 2003. This is the greatest hits compilation spanning the band's 30-year career. It's on 3 LPs. It's going to run you about $75. With a band like Grateful Dead, it's always going to be hard to really capture the band's career just on one single album. But I think they did a really good job with this compilation, getting many of their best tracks on here. So it's on across 3 LPs. It's the first time they've ever done it like this. It's been reissued a couple of times. I think the first time it was available on vinyl was back in 2012, and I think it was like 2022 and 2023 when this got reissued. But all 3 of those releases were only on double albums. You're getting all this spread across 3 LPs. There's 17 tracks on here, almost 80 minutes worth of music. I guess my only real complaint about this compilation is I think they should have at least taken the tracks and sequenced them in chronological order, kind of showing the progression of the band over the years. But as someone who's never been a huge fan of the Grateful Dead, a compilation like this is probably something that's up my alley if I can get it for a little under that $75 mark. So you got that coming out this week. Then you've also got the new album from the Doobie Brothers, Walk This Road, coming out. It's their 16th studio album. It's going to be on light blue vinyl. It's going to run you about $25. This is the band's first album of new material with Michael McDonald since One Step Closer way back in 1980. The album's received pretty positive reviews so far. It's one I'll at least stream and check out this week. To be honest, I didn't even know the band was even still together making music today. I know they had that big reunion back in 2000, I think it was. I don't think I've listened to any of their music since then, though. Something I know a lot of people have been looking forward to is this reissue of Powerslave by Iron Maiden that's coming out this week. Released back in 1984, it was their fifth studio album, of course, the third album with Bruce Dickinson on vocals. It's going to run about $25. This is the 2015 remaster you're getting on this reissue. This album is really notable for the band because it was the first time in their career that they didn't change lineups at all between two albums. And this will be the band's last album with an instrumental track until Senjutsu in 2021. This is a big album when it was released to hit number 21 on the Billboard 200, sold over 1 million copies here in the US. I think this is one of the band's more ambitious albums that they'd record. It's one I haven't listened to in a really long time. I need to revisit this one. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I'm not a big fan of Bruce Dickinson's vocal style, but like I said, it's been probably 20 years since I've listened to this one, so I definitely need to stream it and check it out this week. You also got Debbie Harry, Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde coming out, released back in 1989. It was their third solo studio album. It's going to run about $35. I thought this album was kind of funny because this is the album where she stopped using Debbie Harry and went to Deborah Harry. I don't know, she was trying to become like more mature sounding on this album. But, whenever Debbie Harry releases anything, it's always going to be compared, obviously, to anything that she did with Blondie. And that's why I think this album did really well in the UK, but kind of, it didn't do great here in the US. It did hit, I think, number 123 on the Billboard 200. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that fans here had a hard time probably separating Debbie from Blondie. But as far as her solo music goes, this is probably the most Blondie-like sounding album. And it's another one that I haven't listened to in a very long time. I had this on CD back in the day, but it's another one I'll add to my list to stream and check out this week. The next release is pretty cool because I already have a copy of it. The band was nice enough to send me an advanced copy for me to review on the channel this week. But this is a new split from Generation Exit and Mark Lind and the Unloved. This is the Stay Alive, the Oncoming Storm split. It's going to run about $20. For this new split, Generation Exit teamed up with Mark Lind and the Unloved, which is a solo side project of the Ducky Boys frontman Mark Lind. For Generation Exit, though, this is the follow-up to their 2023 album, Lifer, which ended up being one of my favorite albums from that year. So the bands each did 4 songs on each side of it. Several of them have been released as singles so far. Whenever I hear anyone talk about rock music being dead, Generation Exit is always one of those bands I point them to. If you haven't checked this band out yet, this is definitely one to listen to. This is a release I'm really excited for this week. Like I said, come back and check out the channel on Sunday. I'm going to have a review video up for that one. And then you got Cypress Hill and the London Symphony Orchestra, Black Sunday live at Royal Albert Hall coming out. This was recorded back on July 10th, 2024 with the London Symphony Orchestra. It's going to be on 2 LPs. This is all half-speed mastered. It's going to run you about $40. So what this is a reimagining of Cypress Hill's incredible album Black Sunday that came out back in 1993. The album ended up going number 1 on the Billboard 200, went quadruple platinum here in the US. Black Sunday was absolutely massive when the album came out. It hit number 1 on the Billboard 200 and sell over 4 million copies here in the US. If you've ever listened to a Cypress Hill album, it's probably Black Sunday. So I'm really fascinated to hear this blending of this hip-hop style along with a classical arrangement. If you've seen any of the videos from this performance up on YouTube, it adds a whole completely different dimension to Cypress Hill's music. A couple releases coming out this week. They're part of the Blue Note Tone Poet series, which I can't rave enough about what Blue Note has been doing with this series and the classic series. These are always mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. They're pressed to RTI. They sound absolutely fantastic. Both of them are going to run you about $39 this week. First one is Andrew by Andrew Hill. This is an album that, it was released in 1968, but it was actually recorded 4 years earlier in 1964. And it wasn't as big and as popular as a lot of other Blue Note albums in the late 60s were. But the avant-garde style on this album would end up being pretty influential in jazz music in the late 60s and early 70s. This album is one of those hidden gem kind of albums that when I got into jazz music, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 years ago now, actually probably 8 or 10 years ago actually, I didn't hear anything about it. And I didn't know anything about this album, didn't know anything about Andrew. And then I was just listening to like a jazz playlist one night and came across a couple of songs off this one. Was really impressed with the style and what he did on here. And I was really glad to see Blue Note finally getting around to reissuing it this week. He's got great lineup on here though. He's got Bobby Hutcherson, John Gilmore, Richard Davis, Joe Chambers. So if you're looking for something new to check out and add to your jazz collection, that's definitely one worth looking at this week. And then this next one, this is a very important and influential album that I am surprised wasn't one of the Blue Note releases from when they started doing these reissues, quite a few years ago now. And that's Blue Serge by Serge Chaloff. This one was released back in 1956. It's all the same stuff. It's, mastered by Kevin Gray, pressed to RTI. It's going to run you about $39. Serge was one of the premier baritone saxophonists of the 1950s. and somebody who has ended up being hugely influential in jazz music for the next several decades. He did have a very short-lived career, though. Blue Serge was recorded about a year before his death when he was only 33 years old. This album has a little more of a melodic style than a lot of other jazz albums of that era did, and that's why I think it ended up being such an influential album. And kind of along the same lines as Andrew, this is another one of those hidden gem albums that I don't think gets talked about nearly enough. There's also a new album from Volbeat coming out this week. This is God of Angels Trust. It's their 9th studio album. It's going to run you about $38. There's a standard black version of this. There's also a mystery color version that they're doing of it. So if you're unfamiliar with Volbeat, they're a Danish rock band. It's been around for, I think, over 20 years now. Yeah, because their first album came out back in 2005. This is the follow-up to their 2021 album, Servant of the Mind, which I don't think was really well received by a lot of fans out there. This is a new album, though. This sounds like they're trying to do something a little bit different with this one. The band tried to use a little bit different technique on this new album. They tried to go through and record all these songs in as few amount of takes as possible, so they have this more, overall, this more energetic sound. And I will say that all the singles so far off this album have all been met with really positive reviews, so, I've never been a big Volbeat fan. And it's a style of music that I've had a really hard time getting into over the last 20 years. But I'll go and listen to this with an open mind, like I do with any new album. So it's definitely one I'll stream and check out this week. And then the last album I got on my list, this is the Best of Isaac Hayes. So this is a new compilation. At least I think this is a new compilation. There was a Best of Isaac Hayes compilation that came out, I think it was like 74, but this is a completely different track listing on this one. This is 10 of his biggest tracks from the 70s. There's a standard black version of this. There's also it's like this black and white marble. It's going to be a Target exclusive. It's all going to run you around $24. And yes, when you talk about the Best of Isaac Hayes, he had more than just the theme from Shaft. But he's also one of those artists that I'm probably good with just a compilation. So I would like to see them take this, and yes, it's only $24, but I would like to see them take this and expand on that, because he did have some great songs in the 80s, 90s that I'd love to see them add to this compilation. All 10 of these tracks are all newly remastered by Paul Blakemore. Like I said, Isaac Hayes, I'm good with the compilation, but I would like to see more than what's on this one. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. Like I said, I've got that My Chemical Romance on pre-order. I've already got that Generation Exit. I'll stream the new Turnstile album. I'll probably do a review of that album also this weekend. I'll check out the new Volbeat album. There's some other ones that I need to stream and revisit. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. On to next time. Keep on spinning. Peace.